Once upon a time, in the city of Abuja, there lived a young lady in her early 20s named Ovie. Ovie is a well-known fashion designer. She shared a beautiful apartment with her cousin sister Ime. Ovie was mute. She couldn't speak, but she could hear perfectly and communicated only through hand gestures. One sunny afternoon, Ovie went to a restaurant. As she walked back to her car, ready to leave, she noticed that another car was parked right behind her, blocking her in. She looked around, confused, waiting for the owner of the car to come. Soon, a tall, handsome man in his early 40s walked towards the car. His name was Richard. Ovie quickly approached him, using her hands to ask if he was the owner of the car, but Richard misunderstood her. He thought she was one of those girls who pretended to be stranded just to get money from men. Irritated, he snapped, "How can a beautiful lady like you be begging? Go and get a job." He got into his car and drove off, leaving Ovie standing there. She sighed, but thankful that at least she could now drive out. Some days later, Richard's mother, who had heard so much about Ovie's fashion work, came to her store. The moment they met, they clicked. Ovie's kind heart and talent made her easy to love, and soon Richard's mother became one of her regular customers. One evening, the woman forgot her purse at Ovie's shop. She needed it urgently for a journey the next morning. Her passport was in the purse. She begged Richard to help her pick up the purse and handed the shop address to him. When Richard arrived at the boutique, Ovie was just about to close. She had already flipped the sign from open to closed. As Richard walked in, he immediately recognized her as the same lady he had spoken harshly to at the restaurant. Ovie, without saying a word, pointed at the close sign, signaling they've closed for the day. Richard politely explained that his mother had left her purse and needed it urgently. Ovie quietly handed the purse to him and gestured for him to leave. That night, Richard couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about her. Could I be falling for her? He asked himself. The next day, as Ovie was about to close her shop, Richard came back and sincerely apologized to Ovie. He explained how he misunderstood her the very first time they met. Slowly, they became friends and started seeing each other more often. One day, Richard asked Ovie out on a proper date. She agreed. At home, Ovie tells Ime about the date. She was super excited. Ime helped her pick out a lovely black dinner gown. "Make sure you freshen up properly," Ime teased. "Don't go to a date with the forest down there." They both burst into laughter. Later that night, Ovie left for her date. When Richard saw her, he was stunned. She looked so beautiful. They had dinner and everything was going smoothly. After a while, they began to kiss. Things started to heat up and they moved to the bedroom. But just as Richard was about to take off her clothes, Ovie suddenly screamed, "Stop, Daddy! Stop, Daddy!" Richard froze. He jumped up, shocked. Ovie sat still on the bed, frozen in shame. She quietly left and returned home. Ime was so surprised to see her back so early. "Don't tell me you ruined the date," she joked, expecting Ovie to respond with her usual hand gestures, but this time, to her shock, Ovie spoke. "I did." Ime was speechless. After all these years, her cousin had finally spoken. Though the date ended badly, Ime was more happy that Ovie had found her voice. 2 weeks later, as Ovie returned home from work, she saw Richard standing in front of her door. Her heart skipped. He looked into her eyes, then hugged her tightly. "I'm sorry for how I reacted," he said softly. Tears rolled down Ovie's cheek. She hugged him back and invited him in. That night, she decided to tell him everything. When Ovie was just 8 years old, her father passed away. Life was difficult for her mother and her. One day, her mother met a man who promised to take care of them. She was happy and married him. Whenever her mother was away, her stepfather would sneak into her room and molest her. She tried to tell her mother, but her mother would always say, "Shut up. Don't let anyone hear that." The abuse continued for years. Every time she spoke up, she was silenced. "Shut up," they say. Over time, Ovie stopped speaking, not because she couldn't, but because she was emotionally broken, as silence became her shield. The abuse didn't stop until she was 17. One night, as her stepfather crept into her room again, she couldn't take it anymore. She grabbed a bottle and hit him hard on the head. She ran. She didn't know where she was going. No slippers, no money, no direction, just pain and fear. She found herself in Abuja. From there, Ovie started to rebuild her life. She turned her pain into purpose, choosing fashion design to express herself. But the pain had taken away her voice until that night at Richard's place. When she finished her story, Richard cried. He held her and whispered, "No one will ever hurt you again." Their bond grew stronger. They kept dating, and months later, Richard proposed. Ovie said yes with a voice full of strength, no longer buried in silence.